The lie is coming, so we need to be aware. These file drops concerning so-called aliens and something else will occur every 2 weeks and perhaps individual leaks in between on the new aliens.gov website. It is up it is to lead up to this worldwide speech I mentioned and up into August and this movie they have prepared and beyond into 2027 and 2028. I firmly believe, based upon many interviews in history, that they, the government, are going to try to tell you that many, if not nearly all of the things you were told your entire life are not true and only partially true. I also firmly believe they will try and tell you things about the Bible and related things to the Bible are different than what you know and believe, your faith or lack thereof. They will present to you things that will shake many of you, and some of you will question. They will twist it even further. It is meant to do so, and I'm trying to warn you now that it's coming fast. Yes, it is. They may even say they created you or something similar. You will see and witness things many of you will call miracles. If you do not have a firm foundation to stand on, you're going to fall hard. You must figure out where you stand and your faith now so you can stand when this occurs. I cannot emphasize this enough. You'll either listen or you will not. Many of you are completely confused already in many topics, even without this additional burden being put on you by this world. I am very pessimistic for many people's chances to figure it out. I am as well. They have done a lot of work to make this world upside down, and many of us are tired and worn down. That's very true. Nobody's going to enjoy this new golden age they will drag you into. Not all things that come from the light are good for you or even likes you, especially the false light of Lucifer. Many things imitate the light and may appear to be miracles. There are some lights you would never ever want to be anywhere near you or have any influence over on you. If you knew what was inside of the light, always test it. The test is simple. Just like the pandemic, a recorded event of who will and who will not, and experiments carried out, the government and powers that run this world and of the world have worked for a long time to prepare for this moment. You don't need volumes of documents and videos to tell you that what I'm telling you is the truth. You will know it already, or never will at this point. Ultimately, it's about your soul and its final destination is what I would add to that. But it's over here on Facebook if you want to check out Brian Mitchell on Facebook. I would recommend it if you have it because he has many more just like this. They're all very good. So there you have it. The lie is coming. In fact, it's basically already here. And this is what we're talking about with the angels, frogs, and demons in the video I just did about Leland's posting. So, wow. It's all here, guys. It's all not just coming, it's here. And now, famine is here. Revelation 6 famine is here in the United States, where it will be very shortly. In fact, there's already a lot of people that are food insecure, millions here in the United States and in the West. It's not just happening over there somewhere, right, on your television screen. It's going to happen right here, right now. And if you're not feeling it yet, you will be. We're all about to get a lot skinnier. 8 weeks to empty shelves, 60 days to famine. So I shared this Substack post with all of you today because it's one of the most important stories out there that nobody's speaking about. Many thanks to the subscriber Lori who sent this in to me. Famine's at the door of the USA. This is the information that Hal Turner's putting behind a paywall, but it's information you need to have as you pray, which is the most important preparation you can make. Because that's preparing for your eternal life, right? And then make your preps for the upcoming Revelation 6 famine, which is actually pretty much here now. And store shelves are going to be empty, like it says here, within weeks. So I'm not going to read all of this to you. I'm going to kind of skip through it, so just bear with me. Try not to get bored to death, right? Maybe I'll play like a stock video or something of some disaster scene unfolding. I don't know, while I'm reading this to you. I know it can get boring, guys. I see people coming in and out of the chats all the time when I'm reading like this, but it is what it is. I want to show you what I'm seeing. I don't just want to tell you. And I don't want to put my face all over the screen because then it becomes more about me. Oh, Johnny had a new zit today, or, blah, blah, blah. And so I've always been the voice in the wilderness, so to speak. So we'll just get into this like we always do. So he says, I called this timeline months ago, June and July 2026. I said it I said it when there was no data to support it. I said it when people thought I was wrong. I said it even when the AI systems I work with told me I was getting ahead of the evidence. I said it because I could see the convergence coming through my training and systems analysis because something deeper than data was telling me that the timeline was right. Now the data is here and it confirms everything. I have run this research across 4 separate large language models. I have cross-referenced every claim against the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the International Energy Agency, Bloomberg, Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Fortune, the Associated Press, Reuters, PBS, CNN, and the United Nations. I have verified the expert assessments from the Carlyle Group, Rystad Energy, Shell, Chevron, and the EIA administrator himself. What I'm about to show you is not speculation, it's not opinion. It's the documented, sourced, verified trajectory of the global oil supply as it exists right now when he published this on May 8th, 2026. So about 5 days ago. If you can hear me, your life depends on what's in this article. I'm not being dramatic. I'm not overstating this. I'm telling you that the data says the United States of America will run out of usable oil by July 4th, 2026. Happy 250th birthday, America. Unbelievable. Europe will run out this month. The food system that feeds you runs on diesel. Diesel runs out first. Read this, understand it, and act on it today, not tomorrow, today. And like I said, this is already a 5-day-old article. So the last tanker. On May 3rd, 2026, a Hong Kong flagged tanker called the New Corolla docked at the port of Long Beach, California. It was carrying 2 million barrels of Iraqi crude oil located at the port of Basra on February 24th, 4 days before the United States and Israel launched Operation Epic Fury against Iran and the Strait of Hormuz effectively closed. That tanker was the last one, the last oil shipment from the Middle East to reach American shores. It arrived and unloaded, and now it's gone. The buffer that kept fuel flowing for 2 months, tankers that were already at sea when the war started, is exhausted. Brian Stock, director of the Chevron El Segundo refinery, one of the largest refineries on the West Coast, called it a significant milestone I've never seen or faced in my 27-year career. His refinery, well, it normally receives 20% of its crude from the Arab Gulf. That supply is now zero. California imports roughly 60% of its crude, and roughly 20% of that came from the Middle East, and now it's gone. For 2 months, the world coasted on oil that was already at sea. That floating inventory masked the full scale of what was happening. It kept prices high but stable. It kept fuel flowing. It kept people thinking this was just another spike at the pump. That illusion ended on May 3rd in Long Beach. We're no longer in a price crisis. We're entering a physical shortage, a point where fuel stops being available at any price because there's none left to sell. Yeah, inflation be damned. There just won't be any. What happened to the Strait? Well, the Strait of Hormuz is a narrow waterway between Iran and Oman. Before the war, roughly 120 commercial vessels transited it per day. It carried 20 million barrels of oil per day, 20% of the global seaborne oil trade. It was the single most important energy choke point on the planet, and now they're choking it off. And don't think this wasn't done and planned way ahead of time. They have to have a crisis like this, guys, and then they're going to slam in some hantavirus to go along with it, right? To really emphasize the fact that, well, we've got to lock you down now. There's no fuel, and we can't have you guys out there driving around. And then, of course, there's this virus and blah, blah, blah. And just, yeah, and that's how that's going to roll. You can already see it starting to unfold. In fact, Mike Adams put up something yesterday, and let me go take and see if I can find that real quick. So they're going to hit us with fertilizer shortage-induced famine, plus oil scarcity, energy lockdowns, plus the hantavirus panic, public health lockdowns, all at the same time. Don't tell me it's not coordinated. Of course it is. It always has been. And now we're just seeing it unfold all over again, except this time, Besides some kind of fantasy virus, they also have an energy crisis going on and a fertilizer shortage induced famine. And plus, the other article says, if you don't have diesel, you don't have transportation to get food to the stores in the first place, or fuel in the tractors to get the food out of the ground. If there'll even be a harvest this year, because many farmers didn't even plant because the prices are so high on fuel and fertilizer, and scarce if you can even find fertilizer. So on February 28th, 2026, the U.S. and Israel launched strikes against Iran. They killed Supreme Leader Al Khamenei. Iran retaliated by closing the strait. By early March, only 3 oil tankers, transited in a single day, where 50 had passed days earlier. Iran deployed mines, IRGC gunboats, anti-ship missiles, and drone attacks to enforce the closure. On March 4th, Iran formally declared the strait closed and threatened to attack any vessel attempting passage. So that's the lead up to where we are now. By the week ending May 3rd, Lloyd's List reported only 40 ships crossed the strait in the entire 7-day period. That's roughly 5 or 6 per day. Pre-war traffic was 120 per day. That's a 95% collapse in commercial shipping through the most important oil corridor on Earth. The United States imposed its own naval blockade of Iranian ports on April 13th. On April 23rd, Trump ordered the Navy to destroy any Iranian boats laying mines. On May 3rd, Trump said the U.S. would help free stranded ships. Then they paused the effort. Iran warned the U.S. to stay out. Yeah, they paused the effort because Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and other Gulf states are like, hey, what are you doing? You haven't even talked to us yet. But nonetheless, Trump just keeps plowing through the China shop like a bull, right? So anyway, the strait's been effectively closed for over 2 months. As of late April, the International Maritime Organization reported approximately 20,000 mariners and 2,000 ships stranded in the Persian Gulf. Insurance firms are refusing war risk coverage for Hormuz transits, and the London Joint War Committee has expanded its designated high-risk zones. War risk premiums have increased 4 to 6 times pre-war levels. Even vessels willing to attempt passage face insurance costs that may make the trip economically unviable. Or just go without insurance. And if you get destroyed, it's destroyed. I mean, these are the choices these ship owners are facing now. So what tank bottom means and why it will end your way of life. You're going to hear a phrase in the coming days that most Americans have never encountered: tank bottoms. Jeff Curie, senior advisor at the Carlyle Group, told Bloomberg Television on May 6, 2026, that oil storage tanks in Europe will hit tank bottom sometime in the month of May, and in the United States somewhere in that July 4th period. He's never seen anything like it before. No, none of us have. I mean, I remember the fuel crisis of 79 because, I was like 12 years old at the time, or almost. And then I remember the fuel crisis a little bit of 73, but I was only 5, so there's just little flashes I get of that. But anyway, tank bottoms does not mean the tanks are low. It means the system stops working. Oil storage tanks require a minimum volume of liquid to maintain the pressure that allows pumps to function. When levels drop below that threshold, the remaining oil becomes physically inaccessible to the pipeline system. It cannot be pumped out, cannot be moved, and the pumps fail. Below that, bottom 5 to 10% of large storage tanks contain sediment, water, and paraffin wax that the industry calls heavies. If you try to draw from that level, you clog filters and damage refinery equipment. That last volume is not usable without intensive processing that takes weeks. So when Curie says tank bottoms, he's describing a point where the infrastructure itself fails. The pumps cannot pull, the pipelines cannot deliver, the refineries cannot process. It doesn't matter what the price is, it doesn't matter how much money you have. The fuel will be physically gone from the system. Europe's hitting that point now, this month, May of 2026. The United States hits it about July 4th. That's not projection for the next year. That's 8 weeks from the day I'm writing this, he says. The numbers that prove it. As of the week ending May 1st, total U.S. commercial petroleum inventories fell by 5.9 million barrels in a single week. Crude oil stocks dropped 2.3 million barrels. Distillate fuel, which are diesel and jet fuel, dropped 1.3 million barrels, and now it sits 11% below 5-year average, at the lowest level since 2005. U.S. gasoline stocks fell 2.5 million barrels. This was the 11th straight weekly decline in gasoline inventories. See, they're artificially keeping the prices low by selling the U.S. gasoline stocks overseas to cushion the blow to so-called allies and stuff and so on. But it's not going to cushion it for much longer. And it's just going to make the United States that much more miserable. So all of this is from the EIA's own weekly petroleum status report released May 6th of this year. Globally, the net market deficit's running at 5.1 million barrels per day, according to the EIA quarter 2 estimate. But that is the only the gap between production and consumption. When you include the drawdown of strategic reserves, floating storage, and commercial stocks worldwide, the gross depletion rate reaches 10 to 13 million barrels per day. One analysis estimates that over 1 billion barrels of stored petroleum has been depleted since late February. To put that in context, the entire U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve held 1,413 million barrels in December 2025. We have burned through the equivalent of more than 2 full strategic petroleum reserves in 10 weeks. So the SPR itself stood at 397.9 million barrels as of late April. As of the week of May 1st, it was down to 392.7 million and falling. So it's just a matter of time before diesel runs out and everything stops, like it says right here. Not all fuels are equal in this crisis. Diesel runs out first, and when diesel stops, America stops, just like we said. U.S. distilled inventories, diesel and jet fuel combined, are 11% below the 5-year average and at the lowest levels since 2005. In Michigan, diesel hit $6 a gallon. It's $6.76 here in Spokane. And I'm sure it's higher in even California. Projections range from $6 to $8.90 per gallon, depending on how long the crisis continues. Diesel is not a luxury fuel. Diesel is the blood supply of the American economy. 70% of all agricultural and food products in the United States are transported by truck. Every truck runs on diesel. Every tractor in the field runs on diesel. Every combine harvester runs on diesel. Every refrigerated trailer keeping food cold on its way to your grocery store runs on diesel. Every freight train pulling grain cars runs on diesel. So when diesel becomes scarce, the trucks stop moving. When trucks stop moving, food does not get picked up from farms. It does not get delivered to processing plants. It does not get driven to distribution centers. And of course, it does not arrive at grocery stores. That's not inflation. Inflation is when prices go up. This is when the shelves go empty because there's nothing to put on them. There's nothing to put on them because there's no fuel to move the food from where it grows to where you live. The United Nations has already sounded the alarm. UN News reported that the Hormuz disruption is raising fears of a global food crisis. FAO economists warn the situation could deteriorate further, particularly if countries begin restricting exports to protect domestic supplies. That'll be coming soon. A pattern seen in every previous food crisis. Fertilizer prices are already surging because nitrogen fertilizer production depends on natural gas, and natural gas supplies through the Hormuz have been cut. California nitrogen fertilizer prices have reached $450 to $575 per ton. And then, of course, CNN's reporting the oil crisis is turning into an everything crisis. Plastic caps, crates, snack bags, and containers are becoming harder to procure. Petroleum derivatives are needed for adhesives in footwear and furniture, industrial lubricants for machinery, solvents for paints and cleaning, beer, noodles, chips, toys, cosmetics, kidney dialysis supplies, condoms. All of it depends on petroleum, and all of it's being disrupted right now. We are not approaching a food crisis, we're entering into one. And it would become a famine if this continues through June and July, which the data says it will. Now, you can't even if they opened up the strait today, it would still take months to catch up to where we were, if not years. And the aviation collapse has already begun. On May 2nd, 2026, Spirit Airlines ceased all operations, as we know. Now, the announcement came at 3 a.m. Eastern Time. 17,000 workers lost their jobs. Airline's lawyer said there was no remaining way out. Spirit had absorbed over $100 million in fuel costs since March 1st. It's gone. Spirit Airlines is not the last carrier that will fall, it's the first. Jet fuel inventories at European benchmark hub of Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Antwerp have fallen 50% since the war began in February. Claudio Gialimberti, chief economist at Rystad Energy, told Fortune the decline has been a straight line down and will continue to be like that for the next few weeks no matter what we do. Goldman Sachs projects European commercial jet fuel inventories will drop below the IEA's critical 23-day storage threshold sometime in June. The UK is identified as the most at risk of jet fuel rationing. Some European countries hold no official jet fuel stocks at all. And so, yeah, the airlines are all going to fail, guys. Lamberti told Fortune that we're still kind of sleepwalking into this approaching disaster. There's little doubt it's going to be a disaster. He called it sleepwalking. That is the word. The data is screaming, and the world is sleepwalking, keeping their heads in the sand. So natural gas is being affected, liquefied petroleum gas. That's something that nobody's talking about. And there's, people around the world depend on that for cooking, guys. Well, not for much longer, apparently. So the regions that would be hit first. Not every part of America faces the same level of risk. Geography determines vulnerability. California operates on what analysts call an energy island. It disconnected from the domestic pipeline network and relies mostly or almost entirely on seaborne crude imports. The Chevron El Segundo refinery, one of the largest on the West Coast, is cut off from a significant portion of its supply with no pipeline alternative. California gas is already $6 above $6 per gallon and climbing. Yeah, that's going to get out of control real fast. The southeastern U.S. also depends heavily on the Colonial Pipeline, the major refined products pipeline running from the Gulf Coast to the eastern seaboard. That pipeline is currently seeing reduced throughput because Gulf Coast refineries are prioritizing exports to Europe, where the shortage is more acute. So to hell with you, Americans, we're going to send it all over to Europe and wherever else needs it before you. Unreal. The Southeast may face localized shortages even before the national average reaches crisis levels. Asia and the Pacific are being hit first and the hardest, and Europe faces immediate exhaustion of inventories this month. And the price you see is all a lie. There's something happening in the oil markets right now that Americans will never hear about. And it may be the most important signals in this entire crisis. There are two prices for oil. The paper price is what you see on the news, the futures contract that's traded on the exchanges. Then there's the physical price. This is what actual barrels of oil sell for when real buyers pay real money for real crude to be delivered to real refineries. In a normal market, those two prices track each other closely. Right now, they do not. The gap between them has ranged between $20 to $60 per barrel since the crisis began, depending on the day and the grade of crude. So, yeah. So there's a big difference between what you're physically paying for it at the docks, at the refineries, versus what you're paying in paper trades on Wall Street, which is all fake. Then there's a 64-week lag that nobody understands. Here's the fact that should keep every policymaker awake tonight. If the Strait of Hormuz open this afternoon completely and permanently, the first new drop of Persian Gulf gasoline would not reach a Midwestern gas pump until approximately late August or September of this year. That's roughly 12 to 16 weeks from now. The math is straightforward. It takes roughly 40 days for a very large crude carrier to travel from the Persian Gulf to the U.S. Gulf Coast. Once that crude arrives at a refinery, it enters a multi-week refining process before it becomes usable fuel. Then the refined gasoline has to be moved from coastal refineries to inland distribution points, which takes another 10 to 14 days by pipeline and truck. Add it all together and you get roughly 12 to 16 weeks from straight to pump. That means the pain is locked in, regardless of what happens diplomatically, regardless of what deal is reached, if there's any at all, which Israel says there isn't going to be, regardless of what any politician promises. The physical reality of moving oil across oceans, refining it, and distributing it to 150,000 gas stations cannot be compressed. No speech fixes this. No executive order fixes this. No tweet fixes it. Physics does not negotiate. Nope. It's just the truth. It's just physics. So Kerry confirmed this on Bloomberg. You're taking 3 months, 3+ months to even start to get a resemblance of this stuff beginning to flow. And that 3 months is just the beginning. The full time to restored flow is over a year, guys. But that's only the beginning. The barriers go far beyond transit time. Shipping lanes still must be cleared of mines. Maritime insurance companies must be convinced that the strait is safe, and Lloyd's of London will likely maintain more risk premiums for months after any peace deal. Ships must be repositioned. Production that was shut in must be restarted, a process that the post-COVID recovery showed can take up to 2 years, with permanent damage to some reservoirs if the wells were not properly mothballed. Yeah, we're just now recovering from all the COVID shutdowns, and now we're going into more. Over 2 million barrels per day of Middle East refining capacities offline or damaged. Qatar's Ras Laffan facilities lost an estimated 17% of its capacity. Industry estimates put the repair timeline at up to 5 years. Critical equipment like gas turbines has OEM backlogs of 2 to 4 years. The total Gulf repair bill is estimated between 25 and 58 billion. Even if peace comes tomorrow, the recovery will take years. Isn't it amazing how much easier and faster it is to destroy things than to build them up? Unbelievable. Then we have the forced shutdown of demand. When supply disappears, demand must follow, not because people choose to consume less, but because they're forced to. And that's where we're at right now. And I'm going to let you read the rest on your own. But one last little thing here to confirm what we've already said. The United States is draining itself to supply the world. While American storage tanks empty, the United States is exporting petroleum at an all-time record level. Total petroleum exports hit 14.2 million barrels per day in early 2026, a 33% increase from 2025. There's that 33 number again. Refined products exports hit a fresh all-time high of 8.2 million barrels per day. Gasoline exports rose 27%, and diesel exports rose 23%. Jet fuel exports rose 82%. Read that again. Jet fuel exports rose 82%, while Spirit Airlines went bankrupt from fuel costs. Isn't that something? The United States is sending its fuel overseas to fill shortfalls in Europe and Asia, and for the war maybe, I don't know, while its own inventories collapse. U.S. crude imports are at fresh 5-year seasonal lows. The country is simultaneously producing record volumes, exporting record volumes, and watching its own reserves drain at record speed. The national average price of gasoline as of May 7th was $4.52 per gallon, up from $4.27 in just 1 week. 1 week earlier and up from $2.81 in January. Yeah, we'll never see that again. California is at $5.84 to $6.17 per gallon, and diesel in Michigan hits $6. Well, like I said, it's $6.72 here in Spokane, Washington. Then there's the debt wall, because our national debt has reached 100% of GDP, a level not seen since World War II. That's absolutely horrible news. And so, why is this worse than anything that's come before? Why is that, Johnny? Well, in 1973, the Arab oil embargo disrupted 8% of global supply and prices quadrupled. That took 5 months to resolve. In 1979, the Iranian Revolution disrupted roughly 7% and prices doubled. The effects lasted years. I remember those times. In 1990, Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait disrupted roughly 7% and prices doubled. A coalition formed and resolved it in 6 months. And then in 2022, Russia's invasion of Ukraine disrupted 3%. Prices spiked up to 60%. In 2026, the Hormuz closure has disrupted 15 to 20% of global supply of oil. Physical oil has already hit $144 a barrel. There is 3 times the Kuwait disruption, twice the 1973 embargo. And unlike 1973, OPEC cannot respond because OPEC's own members are locked behind the blockade. Unlike 1990, there's no quick coalition solution because the damage is physical, not structural, and structural, not just political. This is the largest gross disruption to global oil supply in modern history. There's no precedent for it. The EIA administrator said it himself. Just as we've never before seen the strait close, we've never seen it reopen. And so I'll let you read the rest on your own. I think we've read enough here today. in this particular segment. But wow, guys, there it is. The famines of Revelation 6 are about to happen. When he opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come and see." So I looked, and behold, a black horse. And he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius." In other words, your full pay for a day just to survive. And do not harm the oil and the wine. So, anyway, I'll put the links up like I always do, especially this one. Wow. It's all here, guys. It's not coming anymore. Time isn't short anymore. It's pretty much up. So prayed up and prepped up at all times, like we always say. But now it means more to us than ever, right? I mean, prayed up first because we need to know where we're going for eternity. We need to have Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior. He is the ark. He's the way through this great tribulation that we're in right now. Leland said it yesterday in the Frogs, Aliens, and Demons post that I put up on don'tspeaknews.com. Did a video on it this morning. But we have 8 weeks, guys. Get this through your heads. 8 weeks to empty shelves, maybe less. As this starts to leak out and come out into the mainstream, people are going to start panicking and buying things up faster than ever. And it'll probably take less time. But we're 60 days from famine. But remember, God does not give us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So be strong in the Lord and the power of his might, Ephesians 6:10. Don't rely on your own strength, because it'll fail you in these times. Rely on him. Keep your focus on him. I can't emphasize that enough. That's something he told me right away when I got up this morning and started praying. Keep your focus on me, John. Don't look too much to the left or to the right. Just keep it straightforward on me, and I will bring you through this. Just like he will for you guys. And that'll be it for now. God bless. Take care. Johnny Storm. Don't Speak News.